Joe Biden selected Ron Klain as his chief of staff. And what isn't being talked about enough right now is that Ron Klain is known as an engineer of the crime bill. It's a little known fact, unfortunately. It should be much, a much better known fact, much more widely known fact, but unfortunately it's just not being discussed enough. And so we're going to look at what some of the reaction was from the squad and, folks on the left, and also just talk about who he really is. And so first, I just want to draw your attention to this article. And this is from something called Moguldom. So this article is on moguldom.com, and it just goes to show you how you have to it's not propping up enough in mainstream media. So you got to kind of go to some further out there sources in order to get this information, unfortunately. So not being covered enough by the mainstream media, but in this article from moguldom.com, they talk about this pick of Ron Klain for chief of staff. So I'm just going to read a little bit from this article. Appointed by Biden, Klain was chief counsel for the Senate Judiciary Committee from 1989 to July 1992. In this role, he directed the committee's professional staff in its work against crime on matters of constitutional law, drug policy, and major judicial nominations. So he's handling drug policy, in the midst of the war on drugs here. We're talking 89 to 92. This is the late 80s, early 90s. War on drugs is in its prime. We're right leading up to the 1994. This is right before the 1994 crime bill hits, so a lot of tough on crime rhetoric happening. And so it says he advised U.S. Attorney General Janet Reno, who served from 1993 to 2001 on legal and policy matters. So this is through the, Clinton administration all the way up till the George Bush administration. So he advised U.S. Attorney General Janet Reno, who served from 1993 to 2001 on legal and policy matters, coordinating the administration-wide effort to craft and win passage of the Clinton crime bill and the ban on semi-automatic assault weapons, according to the Clinton White House archives. As Clinton's chief advisor on criminal justice issues, it was Klain who thought up the 100,000 new cops initiative, Ruth Shalit reported for The New Republic in 1994. And this is a quote from that. Clinton had a big crime speech coming up, John Kroger, the campaign's deputy issues director, told The New Republic in 1994. We had no idea how many extra cops would be a good thing. Bruce Reed and I called Ron from Little Rock. He said, would 100,000 be enough? So the 1994 crime bill, as a reminder for those who don't remember, but the 1994 crime bill, aka the Clinton crime bill, aka the Biden crime law, was the largest crime bill in U.S. history. It provided for 100,000 new police officers, $9.7 billion in funding for prisons, and $6.1 billion in funding for quote unquote prevention programs, designed with significant input from police officers, experienced police officers. So, the bill disproportionately targeted African Americans with mass incarceration and exacerbated racial inequality in the U.S. justice system. Its effects are still felt today. Black Americans represent 13% of the U.S. population, but account for 40% of the incarcerated population, according to prisonpolicy.org. Moving on to who he is, he also this article goes on to talk more about Klain's background. Klain resigned as Biden's chief of staff in 2011 to join Revolution, the venture capital firm founded by former AOL founder and CEO Steve Case, New York Times reported. He was appointed in 2016 to the executive council of TechNet, the trade group that lobbies for Silicon Valley interests in Washington, D.C. So they're actually like the most prevalent lobbyist for Silicon Valley in DC is this TechNet group. They're the most powerful lobby group for Silicon Valley. So TechNet is a network of tech CEOs and senior executives that claims to be, quote, the voice of the innovation economy, fostering a climate of innovation and competition. the organization says it advances public policies and private sector initiatives at the federal, state, and local levels that, quote, make the U.S. the world leader in innovation. From 1996 to 2020, TechNet contributed $1.261 million to the Democrat and Republican parties, according to OpenSecretsorg Center for Responsive Politics. So we're going to take a look at that a little bit further, and we're going to dig into that because I think that also brings up a really important point about these, donors to the Democratic Party that also are the same. They serve the same set of donors. The Democrat and Republican parties serve the same set of donors, and I want to dig into that. But before we look at that, and we'll take a look at that in a second. Kwame, do you have any immediate thoughts on this that you'd like to share? I can definitely launch into some of mine.
I mean, my first thought, based on this dude being the same guy who worked on this crime bill, it's people keep telling us that, like, people can evolve, people can change, but it's hard to believe that they can do that when they're running in the same circles, right? Because that's the whole thing. Like, when you get out the streets, you get out the hood, you can typically do better until you slip back in with the people you were causing trouble with before. So when his immediate first thing to do is go link up with the guy that he teamed up with to lock up a whole lot of people before, that makes me a little nervous, and it's a little hard to believe that he's really changed.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So I think that it's absolutely indicative. You have to look at somebody's record. That's all that we have to base it off of, is what is your record? When you had power, what was your record? What did you do with that power? And we can see, what Ron Klain did with this power. He, locked up Black people to, at historic levels, and created the mass incarceration problem. So I definitely, this is something that I think is not being talked about enough, is not being discussed enough. And I think it's evident, that I think that's evident by the way that some folks on the left have responded to this, this news. And I think that it's very telling, when you see how, I think it's indicative of just how underreported this information is. And I don't know that these people are definitely like nefarious about it. I just think that they are misinformed or underinformed or ill-informed, at least. And I think one of the main people that I would point to is AOC's response to this. So I'll just show you here how AOC responded to this, this news breaking about Biden choosing Ron Klain for his chief of staff. So this was her tweet when that news went out. She says, you can see she's retweeting the New York Times that said, "Breaking news, President-elect Joe Biden is said to have chosen Ron Klain to be his chief of staff." To which AOC responded, "Good news and an encouraging choice. Thumbs up." So this is our supposed, left resistance here. And you got AOC. And now something that wasn't mentioned about Ron Klain that should really grab AOC's attention as somebody that is the sort of champion of the Green New Deal, is that not only is Ron Klain a lifelong lobbyist as well, who has lobbied for Fannie Mae, the company that is partially responsible for the housing crisis, the 2008 housing crisis, that had to be taken over by the federal government after that 2008 housing crisis. Ron Klain was also a lobbyist for asbestos and for asbestos corporation. So you got an asbestos lobbyist here and the engineer of the crime bill. And here is our supposed left, a leader on the left here, AOC, saying good news and an encouraging choice, which signals to all of her followers who are on the left, who trust her and trust her analysis, that, oh, maybe this is a good dude that we can trust, when really this pick is a huge middle finger to the left and should be taken as a slight to the left, and people should recognize it for what it is. And we shouldn't lie to people. Let's not lie to people about what this is. And look at that tweet, has 111,000 likes to it. So AOC's tweet has, for her saying good news and an encouraging choice, 111,000 people at the time that, at this moment that we're recording this, over 110,000 people have liked this tweet. That's 100,000 people that think that they know something about Ron Klain now and think that they can trust him a little bit more, when really they shouldn't be able to. And really they should be questioning this and should be questioning AOC's judgment in this case, really. So I thought that was a really bad look for AOC there. And before we get off of this, story here, I just wanted to show that, highlight that point that they mentioned about in that story about where that TechNet group that Ron Klain was on this, he's an executive for and is on their board of investors for TechNet, this Silicon Valley lobbying group. This is the Open Secrets page that was linked to in that article for TechNet. So this shows the Open Secrets. That's OpenSecrets.org. You can go. They are a great, nonprofit organization that tracks all the funding going into any political campaign. It has to all be filed with the FEC, and so they just sum it up into, they put it into these very nice, digestible formats that are easy to sort of for an average person to go through and to better understand sort of where are a campaigns or politicians' donations coming from. And you can also break it down by the party as well and see it over a period of time. So what we're going to be looking at here is a graph from, for going back a couple of decades, actually, on where TechNet was donating their money to. So let's take a look at that. And this is on OpenSecrets.org. And you can see here, again, this is just for TechNet. And you can see each year, and I'll just hover over them so you can see which year these are referring to. And you'll see that here in 1998, so, we have 94, that's Bill Clinton gets elected first time. So in 98, when Bill Clinton was getting elected a second time, they gave more money to Republicans. In fact, they gave, 35,000, 36,000 to Democrats. They gave 52,000 to Republicans. In 2000, this is when George Bush is running for president now. So we got George Bush running for president in 2000, and TechNet, gave 136,000 to Republicans, gave more money to Republicans with George Bush running. They gave more money to Republicans than they did to Democrats. In 2002, midterms, about the same, about equal. In 2004, again, where this is George Bush's reelection after the Iraq war. And where are they giving their money? Where are they putting their money? More to Republicans than to Democrats. This is in 2004, right after, in George Bush's reelection. You can see, again, midterms, they give a little bit more to Democrats. This is how they balance things and keep the status quo maintained. And then in 2008 with Obama, boom, spike, hugest, outsized donations. They love them some Obama, and Obama was great for Silicon Valley. So it makes perfect sense why they would donate so much to Obama. And then you can see in the midterms, they barely gave anything. They really cut back their political donations. But by 2012, Obama's reelection campaign, they actually give more to Republicans again. And then you can see in 2016, they give about the same to both. Same thing going all the way out. In 2020 now, they gave more to Biden. So they favor Biden more, of course. And that's Ron Klain, at the head of this organization. And he gets a job with Joe Biden after helping him, earn a little bit of money as well, raise a little bit of money. So I just wanted to show that and highlight the fact, because I think it really highlights, it's just a microcosm of how these companies do this. And they're corporate donors. They donate to both people. It's just a way to hedge your bets, right? You hedge your bet. Whichever one wins, they owe you something. If you got enough money, you give to both of them. When you narrow the candidates down to just two potential candidates, it narrows it down. So that's all they have to do is just bribe two people, and they got an in no matter who wins. And so I just wanted to highlight that, because I think that it really shows what these lobbyist groups and are really about and how they function behind the scenes. And yeah, I think that this is a disgusting pick. It's a terrible pick. That was a garbage take by AOC. She was absolutely wrong. She should have corrected herself. I haven't seen her correct herself in any way, which is really, really troublesome to me. And I think that she needs to come out and be on the record of saying, no, I've done my research now, and this is a horrible pick. This guy was an engineer of the crime bill, that created the mass incarceration problem. He is terrible to, Black lives in this time of a Black Lives Matter movement. And I think that it's incumbent upon anyone that has given even a tacit endorsement or a full-throated endorsement like AOC did here. I think it's incumbent upon them to come back out and make a correction for that. And I'd really like to see that, because otherwise they've done a disservice to the left and are spreading misinformation about a really horrible pick. And a chief of staff is an important pick. Let it be known. The chief of staff is the person that they have, a lot of power in sway in the staffing, the actual staffing of the administration. So they're going to help pick the staff of the administration, as well as they handle sort of some of the day-to-day. They take off some of the bear some of the brunt of the day-to-day work, so that it doesn't have to make it all the way to the president. So these are really powerful positions. That the chief of staff is a very powerful position, and for him to give it to an engineer of the crime bill, I think you couple that with the Kamala Harris vice presidency, and you just got the perfect storm of 3 tough on crime, anti-black legislators and prosecutors here. And I think it spells trouble for the Black Lives Matter movement, and for Black communities in general, and for poor brown communities as well. So if you're poor, you're going to be be subjected to incarceration at an outsized rate, and so poor white folks too, you're gonna feel it as well. So yep. Any other thoughts before we push along?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It is just really disheartening and not reassuring at all that, like you said, between the Kamala Harris pick to this pick, it's just I don't know how anyone who was out there screaming Black Lives Matter and out there protesting these deaths are going to. I need to hear from y'all. I need to hear from y'all, because y'all told me that when Biden got into office, you would stand against him and you would be out there, you'll push him left. Like, I need to hear from y'all on this pick, because if not, then again, I just feel like you're already out to lunch. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant brunch.